Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we get into the hadith for today, what made me choose this hadith is something inspiring I saw over the weekend. We were attending the graduation ceremony. It was taking place in Nugget Masjid, Islamic Foundation. The graduation was of the Madrasa Qasim al-Ulum, and it was a Hifz class as well that the students were graduating. So there was, I don't remember how many students, but there was a bunch of kids who had memorized the Quran, right? So they were calling their names, and then they were saying, after they would call the person's name, they would say, after he finished, he also completed this many revisions of the Quran, 15 or 20 revisions or 30 or whatever it was. After they called all of them, then they called up, I think it was 5 or 7 students, and it said they were giving them, they're honoring them, especially because after they finished their hifz, not only did they revise many, many times, but they also, these students, they in one sitting recited the whole Quran with 0 mistakes. Right? And subhanAllah, out of all of those, then they pointed out one child who was only 7.5 years old. He's in that lineup over there. He memorized the Quran in 1 year. The entire Quran, he memorized it in 1 year, and then he also sat there and read the whole Quran with 0 mistakes. He's only 7.5 years old. I was telling one of the brothers yesterday in the Quran class as well, that subhanAllah, not only is, and we know the fada'il, we know all the virtues of memorizing the Quran, and on the day of Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell a person to recite, and he'll keep on reciting and getting higher levels in Jannah, and the parent will be given the crown. All of those virtues are there, but one big factor that we do not see and we don't realize, we see mashallah and we see all of that, but one big factor we don't realize is the dedication and the consistency. The dedication and the consistency is what is required for a person to become hafiz. And that's what I was having the discussion yesterday as well, was how come children memorize much more than adults do? It's not because the adults are slower or the adults' minds don't work as good. Yeah, the kids are, their minds are more empty, but it's mostly because of their consistency and their dedication. And really in our deen, this is what was expected of us. That even if we're going to do something, we want to achieve something, we just have to do a little bit. And subhanAllah, the sheikh who was finishing doing the Khatm al-Bukhari, he even mentioned, he said, show me anywhere in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says bring 100 marks, bring 100%. You're not asked for 100%. And Surah Qariya, what does it tell us about? The person who has heavier, good deeds, that's it. So he gave an example. He says if a person has, 49, when it comes to the scale, if it's 49 on the bad side, and on the good side he's 51, he passed. All we have to do is try a little bit and have consistency. As the Prophet ﷺ told us, أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. That the most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, even if it's just a little bit, but consistent. And this is what we lack, and we have to understand and realize that even with our Quran, bringing it back to the Quran, we're not talking about consistency. The hadith wasn't that one that I just mentioned. Today's hadith is about Quran, right? Bringing this habit of memorizing a little bit of Quran into our own lives and into our children's lives, right? Maybe every kid is not going to be a hafiz, but we should have that goal that, inshallah, our children should be huffaz. They should memorize. And if we had this mindset, even if we memorize a little bit at a time, eventually we would become hafiz, right? If we're going to live 70 years or 60 years or even 50 years and we learned a few ayat every single day, we'd be hafiz by the end. But what's stopping us? It's just the dedication and the consistency, that's all. The hadith for today, the Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ الَّذِي لَيْسَ فِي جَوْفِهِ شَيْءٌ مِّنَ الْقُرْآنِ كَالْبَيْتِ الْخَرِبِ. That he who does not memorize any part of the Qur'an, he is like a ruined house, an empty house. Right? No one wants a house that's haunted, that's ruined, is empty. Right? A house that doesn't have any light, any nur, any mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, of course, I would dedicate this more towards children, but there's not that many children here. So for the adults, right, even for us, it's very important that we continue our journey of memorizing and connecting with the Quran. Many times we are happy with, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falaq and Nas, and even those we can't recite them with tajweed, and we can't recite them with the proper letters. We're reading them in Urdu, right? We're reading them in whatever language we grew up with. The Kha is Ghain, and the Ha is Ha, Hamza is Ain, and Ain, Hamza, they're all mixed. Even the 3-4 surahs that we have. So, we shouldn't limit ourselves to only those surahs, and even the surahs that we have, we should work on fixing them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to act upon what has been said. Ameen wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام وتبارك ذا الجلال والاكرام ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله.